Each one of these is a pen for chickens. You can see they're recently hatched. I just did my first successful run with the egg thrower. There are 3 hoppers in there to collect eggs, and I could do another one in front of the door, but that often ends up being a little inconvenient. I might come back and change that later though. So once the chickens grow up, they're going to lay eggs. The eggs will get collected by the hopper and moved to the back. Back underneath here, connected to that last hopper, is a dropper pointed upwards. This is another dropper pointed upwards. And then this is a dispenser pointed out towards the door. You actually, when you're building this, you want to cut the room first, and then you're going to lay this dropper first. It needs to be facing upwards, which means that you have to stand up above it, facing down to place it. Once you have placed it, then you can place the hoppers that go back towards the door. You want to start with the hopper that connects to this dropper, and then lay them one by one towards the door, connecting each of them as you go. Once you've got the bottom dropper and hoppers laid, then you can do this other dropper. Again, it's facing upwards, so you're going to have to stand up on a block and look down to place it correctly. Then this is a dispenser. To place it, you're going to come in through the door, and you're going to be looking at this block, this dropper. Look at its top face, hold the shift key, and it'll place the dispenser facing out at you. The dispenser is what actually throws the eggs at the door with high power sufficient to break the eggs. Now, the upper part of this is also important. Putting glass up on top allows you to look in and see how mature your chickens are. So if they're recently hatched, you'll be able to tell. And you'll be able to tell roughly how many you have in the pen so that you can crowd it but not get super overcrowded. You can tell I've left a little bit of head clearance here, not a whole lot, but I like to have a light on each one. These are jack-o'-lanterns. You can use glowstone too. But it's nice to have a flat light because when you go in to harvest the chickens after they're all grown up and have laid their eggs, you're going to be swinging your sword pretty wildly. So you don't really want any torches because you'll hit them with your sword. And you really just want 1 block wide pens, 2 at most, because chasing down all the chickens so that you can slaughter them gets to be a pain if you make it too big. Which is why I tend to prefer these separated pens rather than doing one big room. And I've got some head clearance up here as well. And a ladder to get up. That's the basics. The other thing to know about is multiple doors. Your chickens are going to get loose. It will happen. So have a door into the area with the pens. This can be a holding room for chests because you're going to have a lot of excess material coming off of those chickens. And then put another door out here from the rest of your living space. Now in this case, I have built this pen area underneath my main living space. So my main living space is over here. I've got all my chests and my goodies and my farm and my bed. And the chicken farm is basically right under there. It's out that way a little more, but not terribly far. What that means is it's going to stay loaded pretty much any time that I'm working in my house. But it's down just far enough that I can be a little bit away from the noise. Because these chickens are going to get loud when they get full. Okay, so that set's grown up. That's the first set that hatched. The other sets, I had to troubleshoot them a little bit, so they're still little. But basically, I can run any number of pens. I can just keep digging it wider and wider and wider. And I can move the clock circuit here. I can move that out farther to match so that I can add more pens. Let's fill that in. Eventually, chickens will get loose back here, and you're going to have to come slaughter them while they're dancing around your redstone circuitry, and that's a little annoying. Just try not to break it. Or put it back together after. So when you've got eggs in there, you can flip the switch. And it's a clock circuit. It just keeps ticking. When you build this, note that this redstone comparator has 2 positions. you need the little red thing up for it to act like a clock. If you leave that down, it just turns on and stays on. That doesn't do you any good. If you make it so that the red bit's visible, now we have ticks. And the ticking clock is what you need in order to activate the dropper dispenser combination to shuffle the eggs up and throw them out the dispenser. So this build is not complicated when you see it actually in front of you. It's a little complicated to troubleshoot when you don't know quite what's going on. But what I found is you really are best off laying the dropper first, facing upwards. You can put another dropper facing upwards on it at that time, but then you run the hoppers from this area back towards the door, connecting them up to the dropper and then the next hopper all the way. Then lay the dispenser last, right up on top. The order that you do the droppers and hoppers has a major impact on how well the thing functions and whether your stuff gets stuck or moves where it should. So that's it. That's my automated chicken farm. And as you get it going, you let it mature for a while, let them lay a bunch of eggs, fill all the hoppers. You end up with enough excess eggs that you can start to scale out and add more pens and more pens and more pens, and it just grows. This makes a really good experience farm because you'll get a ton of chickens in every individual pen, and it also is a great way to get feathers and meat if you need food sources or if you need arrows. So that's it. That's the automated chicken farm.